Hey folks, Gio here from the Red Letters Dialogues. A few days ago, Pew Research, they released their religious survey of the U.S. landscape, and many Christians have been making a huge brouhaha about it. Many of them have been tossing themselves off of buildings and ready to commit suicide. And I am here to say to every single one of you, relax. Nothing's happening. It's not the end of the world. Many commentators during the last few days, including Glenn Beck, have postulated what this means. And, well, take a listen.
The bigger problem is the elephant in the room that I think most Christians don't want to acknowledge. The biggest problem with the Christian church are all of the Christians. Like it or not, people on the outside are watching. And I can guarantee you that there are people in my church that have a problem because of me. They don't like me. I know I go to my church and I don't like some people in my church. And it seems to me that we're a little hypocritical. I know I go to other churches and they don't like me because of my religion or whatever. And we're I don't know. Let me put it this way. We're all waiting for an excuse to not go to church. I mean, I don't know about you, but on Sunday, anything, please. Oh, can we have a snowstorm where the roads are all blocked so we don't have to go to church? And everything is an excuse not to go. So we have far too many excuses. And some of them are real. Our churches are rife with hypocrites, know-it-alls, holier-than-thous, and the judgmental. And you put me in that box far too many times. The reason for this is, as every believer knows, we're all human beings. We're all flawed. We're all liars and cheats and thieves to some extent.
Yes, the typical excuse that sinners have always used, that erroneous pretext to never come to the feet of the Lord. Mr. Beck, please understand that sinners will be sinners, and they will employ any justification, erroneous or not, in order to desist from coming to the feet of the Lord. Also, this is Rich coming from the Truth Has No Agenda guy, and a man whom has never forsaken Mormonism, a false religion, and whom seeks ecumenistic ties with other religions that are not favorable to Christianity. As a matter of fact, they denounce Christianity as false when we know that Jesus Christ is the only way to the Father, John 14:6. So you might want to check your theology and the people you are surrounding yourself with and what they have to teach. Now, let's take a closer look at these statistics to see what they actually show us. The biggest thing that most people have made an issue of is the growing number of unaffiliated persons. And if we look at these statistics closer, they show us that this group from 2007, when the last survey was undertaken, to 2014, when the latest survey was taken, that group grew from approximately 16% now to 22%. But I guide your attention to a portion of the study. Many people do not read through the fine print in order to see what they mean by persons whom are unaffiliated. Initially, anyone that is taking a cursory glance at the statistics would say the number of agnostics and atheists have grown. Wait a minute. Let's just take a closer look at these statistics. It says here, and I have the papers here in front of me, that way I am not misquoting the study itself. If you look at the breakdown under the heading that says Christians decline a share of U.S. population, it says that those who are unaffiliated, yes, they moved from 16.1 to 22.8%. But the atheist groups grew from 1.6% to 3.1%, which is only a 1.5% increase. Agnostic, 2.4% to 4.0%. That's a 1.6% increase. And then those that say nothing in particular, 12.1% to 15.8%, and that accumulates to 3.7% increase in the population. Now, the number of Christians has declined from 78.5 what was it, 78.4% to 70.6%, an 8% decrease. But the truth is, this is mostly prevalent amongst Catholics and mainline Protestants. Whom are these mainline Protestants? You might ask. Well, Presbyterian Church USA, Episcopalians, Lutherans. Most of these people have never properly adhered themselves to sound doctrine anyways. So we find that the mass exodus is happening from institutions that do not espouse sound biblical doctrine. That is Roman Catholicism, Lutheranism, some of the groups that are not very good in their Latin, like Episcopalians and Lutherans, and then Presbyterian Church USA, which, ironically enough, it is PC USA for short. I'll let that set in just a second. Evangelical Christians, those whom denominate themselves to adhere themselves to the Bible, who believe that the scriptural text is inerrant in every single way, shape, or form. This group has always been the smallest. Jesus tells us in Luke chapter number 12 that we are a, quote, little flock, end quote, and that's not about to change. And even within the group that identifies as Christian, in truth, we have to weed out the persons whom are counterfeits versus the true Christians. We will always be, not by design, of course, but from the simple fact that we will always be a smaller group because the truth divides. People want to adhere to sin most of the time. The majority of the time, they want to live licentiously. And if anyone comes, including Christianity, Jesus Christ, and say you have to live differently, man in his or her pride will not want to acquiesce. The truth of the matter is, even in these cases, when we have these massive polls, people will affirm something that they are not. Do you know how many people in this poll, I imagine, and this to be the case, I've been in ministry for many years now, individuals whom say they are Christians, but in reality, they are perfunctory churchgoers. And many of these people who would say, I'm a Christian, those individuals, they go to Catholic Mass once a year to ask the local priest to have his sins forgiven, and the rest of the year, he will continue to undertake his licentiousness, his sinfulness. So even in these polls, we have to take all of this with a grain of salt. Now, evangelical Protestantism has diminished by less than 1%, 26.3% in 2007 versus 2014, which it diminished to 25.4%. Now, if you take a closer look at the numbers, you'll actually see that evangelical Protestants have grown in numbers during the last few years. Under the heading that says number of evangelical Protestants growing, in 2007, it was at 59.8% of those that identify as Christians, and it has grown to 62.2%. So we see that churches that espouse the veracity of the scriptures and also the true gospel, the numbers are increasing. So what do we have after we have analyzed all of the data and everything that we have said? In essence, the study shows us that the posers are showing themselves for whom they are, the counterfeits, and the true Christians are beginning to show their faces. Last but not least, I need to make a point of stating that in one respect, Glenn Beck is right. It is not fashionable anymore to be a Christian because we have been living in a secular nation for many, many years. And now we find that persons whom are not affiliating themselves, at least superficially, with that facade of stating, I am a Christian, and affiliating themselves to a church, even though they don't adhere to it, from their heart, they're beginning to drop from the ranks, simply because we find that our society is becoming more and more hostile towards Christianity. But once again, this fits into what I have been saying. This is separating those persons whom are true Christians, true Bible-believing Christians, versus the persons whom have been Christians in name only. So take heed to the words of Jesus. Let not our hearts be troubled, because he has defeated the world. And it does not matter how many people call themselves Christians, so long as we are adhering individually to the truth. That is all that matters. This has been Gio for the Red Letters Dialogues. I thank you so much for viewing. Please remember to visit our website, redlettersdialogues.com. Also visit us on our social pages. And if you would, press the subscribe button down below. That way you would be alerted when these videos are published. Until the next occasion, may the Lord shine his face upon you, and Godspeed.